Let me share the window. All right. I think we're ready. Okay, thank you all for being here. It is really wonderful and also a very special day for us. Today, uh, I'm not here alone. I'm here with Shanali, who's joining us from Sundarbans, and together we are going to share our journey of working together for the last 3 months and take you through our journey, share what we learned, and dream together. Um, so, Mangrove Lab was actually an initiative of WOCAL that we partnered with Women for Conservation with. Women for Conservation supported this project and helped us get started with a grant, and that's why we're here, and we were able to implement it on the ground. Before we talk about our work at the Mangrove Lab, I want to share a little bit about how did we get here? What's the journey been like? Where did Vocal actually begin? Um, so, a few years ago, about 5 years ago, I quit my corporate job and decided to um, decided to get into conservation, and my life has never been the same. Conservation, when I um, when I first because of this new life that I now had, I was able to travel to various landscapes and places and work with various communities. And living on the ground taught me a lot more about conservation that I had understood and known before. I saw how people's lives close to forests are so deeply intertwined with their ecosystem. And whether it was women saving seeds or whether it was fishermen trying to gauge how much fish to catch for a day. I think conservation was always a part of their lives, but it never visible in the mainstream. And that is what led me to this question that I've brought here today, which is, who is a conservationist? At that time, I couldn't really. Few years ago, when I had just begun stepping into conservation, I couldn't really frame these questions well. But over time, I think these questions have turned into a resolve to find answers, find who really is a conservationist, who gets to participate, whose knowledge, whose labor counts. And that is exactly what I'm here to explore with all of you today. These questions took me to the Sundarbans last year, where I spent 3 months living on the ground, spending time with the community. And Sundarbans, I think many of you might already know, it is the world's largest mangrove ecosystem and hosts some of the world's most extraordinary biodiversity. This landscape is like no other. Here, fish can climb trees, animals drink salt water, and even roots grow towards the sky. And this is also the habitat of the Royal Bengal tiger, and they are also as unique as the ecosystem itself. While most people come here to either experience this extraordinary biodiversity, this very rich landscape, or to study it, the reality on the ground can also be very different and far less romantic. Um, Along with the wildlife, also lives 4.5 million people across the islands between India and Bangladesh. That's the range of Sundarbans. And many of them directly depend on the landscape, on the mangroves, on the fishes, crabs, and honey, which supports their livelihood. But this um, but the landscape is also fastly changing. Um, just in the last 3 decades, Sundarbans has lost almost one-fourth of its uh, mangroves, mangrove cover, and this biodiversity loss is only accelerated due to climate change, which has where the sea levels in the Sundarbans are almost twice the global average rate, and it is also bringing more frequent and intense cyclones into the region, which is not just endangering wildlife, but also risking the lives of people at the forefront of the fight against climate change. So, when I was there, I became very curious to understand how this is being addressed. I also realized that people who are closest to the ecosystem are also often the farthest away from decision making and leadership. And I began exploring, I began understanding what already exists in the conservation landscape in the Sundarbans today. So the women led uh, uh, the space for including women in conservation is widely celebrated across Sundarbans, and mainly happens in these three sectors, which is restoring mangroves at scale, where women collectives are employed to plant seedlings and seeds across the coastlines. Um, then there are livelihood focused projects which offer women alternative opportunities to support their livelihoods, like managing nurseries or um, production of honey. And lastly, the other sector is training and empowerment, where women are trained across various skills from computer to stitching and embroidery and all kinds of work. And while all of these projects have been very successful and very crucial in empowering women and uh, advancing conservation, um, we, we did see that each of these approaches did have its own limits, where either survival of the mangroves was challenging. Across the Sundarbans, the average mangrove restoration success lies between 30 to 50%, um, or uh, or we saw projects where women were trained for new skills and technology, but also undermined their existing local knowledge. So we saw that there's one thing in common across all of these sectors, and it was that women were mobilized to deliver a conservation goal that they themselves did not set. So we asked a different question. We asked, what if women were not just the beneficiaries of conservation, but women were its very architects? Women across women in their daily lives are already um, interacting with their environments and supporting and stewarding their ecosystems for many, many generations. So we asked, what if the knowledge is already there? What then becomes the missing piece? What do we need to do so that both women and nature can thrive? And that's when we came up with the Mangrove Lab. The Mangrove Lab was possible because of the partnership and the grant from Women for Conservation. This was a 3-month project that we piloted in Sundarbans on the island of Bali, which is a um, low-lying island towards the Bay of Bengal. Also at the edge and fringes of the forest. And the idea was that how can we create a space and environment where women can deeply understand their ecosystem, um, understand how it has been changing, and address challenges through their own knowledge and creativity and curiosity. So we started with 6 women. We chose to um, start with depth rather than scale. So we started with 6 women, including myself. We were 7 together. It was a 3-month exploration. We had one learning space, but we did spend most of our time outdoors, and 5 phases to get to actually designing solutions to local ecological problems. As you can see, we have 5 different phases here, and I'm going to walk you through each of these phases as we talk. Um, so these were our non-negotiables. This was how we designed the program on the basis of these conditions, and this is what we were not willing to compromise on. Um, the first and foremost was curiosity. All our sessions started with curiosity. We never had a plan to where we could see the final picture exactly. We never knew where our exploration might lead, or we never started with answers. We always started with questions. And safety was, again, our top priority. We wanted to eliminate all kinds of barriers that were preventing women to participate, whether it was time or access to resources, language, a safe, familiar space, and all of that. And agency, the idea was that the women lead decision making. The women choose the problems that matter to them and design the responses that they see best fit for their environment. And of course, co-creation. All of the solutions that we'll be presenting today were all co-created by the team. And I'm actually very excited to introduce you to the cohort here. Our phase 1 was spent not starting with the problem, but starting with a shared connection. We spent a lot of time meeting each other over cups of chai, coffee, painting together, going for walks, going for photography. Photography turned out to be one of the most amazing experiences that we shared together. And that's how we got to know each other. And through that, we also kind of tried to understand our connection with the ecosystem. And I want to introduce you to all the stewards of the lab. I said that we are 7 of us. And here is Anjali Jana, Shonali Bera, Momita, Prima, Sushmita, and Pushpa. All of these women bring something unique to the table, whether it's skills or experience or passion and interest. Everybody that you see here contributes in a very, very unique way. You can see, and I'll be sharing this with you later as well, but you can see the diversity of ideas and knowledge that each of these women carry. For example, Anjali Jana, she's been weaving gatha. Gatha is a traditional form of artwork that's done over clothing materials. And she's been doing that since the age of 15. She learned it from her mother. And she can do anything that you can think of. She's also a farmer. Shonali loves photography. She loves capturing wildlife with her camera. Momita helps take care of the plants. She's very, very passionate about plants. Pratima, she is our visitor coordinator. She loves and animals, and she's also a leader in her community. Um, she often rec- she often um, organizes events for the community and for children. Sushmita is our youngest and also the most energetic. She's quite interested in birds and also in plants. And lastly, we have Pushpa, who's a storyteller, a writer, um, and an artist. And she also has been quite interested in learning about birds, and her dream is to do something for women in her community. So, phase one was about getting to know each other, immersing in the ecosystem. Phase two was about understanding and mapping problems. Um, so, we started visiting different spots on the island, especially along the fringes where we were aware that the ecosystem has been degrading. Um, that was our first approach. We picked a site. We started. Um, we picked a site which was a tidal creek which flowed into the riverways, and we started working there. And because uh, at that time there was also elections happening in the state, uh, we weren't able to do a lot of field work in this particular site after creating our first solution, um, which then pushed us to try a different approach. And then we started discussing uh, how we can address problems that really matter to us, matter to the women living on these islands. And these are the problems that they picked out of them. The first one was erosion of the coastline and vulnerability to storm surges and cyclones due to the loss of mangrove cover, followed by decline of native pollinator species from both villages and the forests, and lastly, pollution of rivers, especially pollution with plastic. Phase three was about understanding these problems deeply. But when we planned this initially, the idea was that we get straight into designing solutions. Um, but then, as we started working on the problems, we realized that we wanted to learn more before we get to a solution that would make an impact. So we started learning about the problems deeply. Uh, went for uh, we went for various nature walks, immersive walks, so that we could directly experience the problem. We also talked to the local communities living in those areas, especially near the riverside or wherever mangroves had degraded, or the river had eroded parts of the land. Um, and we also used some experiential tools and frameworks to map the ecosystem and map the problems that we were experiencing and observing, and try to do the root cause analysis together. Usually it was done with a piece of pen and paper. And then we got into phase four, which was where we got into designing prototypes. Um, so, why did we start designing prototypes? Prototype is nothing but um, testing an idea, testing how good an idea is in the real world. Um, and this did not actually start just after we discovered the problem. We started designing prototypes almost from the first week onwards. the prototype that you see here, Play for Nature, we actually did that in our uh, second week of being together, where the women hosted a day of games in the community, where they invited um, about 20, 30 people, but more than 50 people showed up. Um, and they tried to raise awareness about mangroves and the ecosystem through games that they designed and implemented and hosted. Um, One of our other early prototypes was the plastic cleanup and awareness. I have so many photos to show you, but we are limited on time and space. So this was quite interesting. This was one of our early prototypes um, when we had selected our first site, which was the tidal canal, and we started noticing how the water quality in this canal had degraded. And but the people living on both sides of the canal were directly dependent on the health of it. People were either using it for fishing or farming, and we decided that we wanted to do something about it. And one of the most visible problems was plastic. Um, and we decided that we wanted to get the plastic out before the monsoons arrive. Because if the monsoons arrive, it's going to carry all the plastic into the river channels. So we decided that we'll go and pick up the plastic. The only problem was um, there was no way to go inside the water. The water was too dirty and really not safe for anybody to go. And that's when the women designed some of these tools. The tools that you see here, it's made from a simple bamboo stick with a fork, and also these are old fishing nets that are sewn there to hold the plastic from the water. And together, in just I think 4 hours, we collected about 40 kilos of plastic that day. And the women didn't just stop there; they went a step ahead, and they went and tried to also speak to the community living around this canal and raise awareness. Um, and one of our other, some of our other project prototypes are the mangrove nursery, which was quite special. We have been thinking about planting mangroves since the beginning of the project. Everybody is always excited to plant mangroves, but we realized it was not the right time to do that. And because the monsoons had not yet arrived, it was peak summer, and if we planted mangroves, then the chances of its survival would be very less. So instead, Momita, one of our team members, she came up with this idea. It's like, why don't we make a nursery? And within the next 2 months, when our saplings have grown, we will go and plant them on the site. Um, and again, we were all very excited. The only problem was we never had made a mangrove nursery. So we decided to learn that first. And Shonali is going to actually talk a little bit more about the mangrove nursery later. Another prototype was the pollinator garden. That was an experiment to create a safe habitat for bees, butterflies, and pollinators, and even birds. And this was created in the backyard of one of the women's backyard in her house. We planted 15 different native species of plants to support pollinator, support the health of pollinators. And one of our other prototypes, our fourth one, was a shelter that the women wanted to create for local birds that have been disappearing, like sparrows. They mentioned that sparrows basically make their homes over roofs, and earlier people had huts which would have these roofs made of hay, and that's where the sparrows would basically make their nest. But now, with times changing and homes changing, um, these the roofs are now tin sheets, which become really really hot during the summer, and not really suitable for sparrows and some of the smaller species of local birds to nest. So they created a small habitat, a small shelter for birds like sparrows. And lastly was the Children of the Mangroves. This was an education project that was taken up by some of the Mangrove Lab participants. They decided that they didn't want to stop at just creating change. They wanted the next generation to be a part of it. Um, and they did that through games, music, dance, um, and um, uh, things that children really enjoy, their way of learning. We ended the last phase of the program with a community exhibition. The idea was to now share with the community the findings that women had, all the findings from the exploration that women had done, um, and share their prototypes, get feedback from the community, um, and make women's work more visible. And this was also entirely designed and hosted and planned by the team together in just a matter of 2 weeks. And we saw over 150 people coming to attend and support and engage. Out of them, 12 were local stakeholders and leaders of local organizations, the forest department, and school leaders as well. So this was our chance to really reach a broader community and share the vision that these women have for their environment. And this is what the pilot basically produced in the last 3 months in a nutshell. From all the 6 participants for whom it was completely voluntary to participate in this program, to actually completing the program, designing and deepening their understanding together, leading conservation dialogue in their community, and creating 6 different working prototypes in these 3 months. Was a true achievement, which I want to congratulate the women for, who are also on this call here today. And also, one of the key outcomes was the doors that the exhibition opened for us. During the presentations, during the conversations, while women were sharing their vision and their prototypes, 3 new organizations reached out for collaborating together. One of them was the Forest Department, which the Forest Department of the West Range of Sundarbans, where Bali is located, and another NGO and a school. All of these that we didn't imagine before. And now I want to talk about the outcome that matters the most. Whenever somebody asks me, what are you most proud of? I always say that the fact that the women decided that um, they want to continue beyond this pilot, and not just these 3 months. That was, I think, that is where the real deepest change lies. Not in our prototypes, but in the people behind this. And today, I'm so happy to invite Shonali here to speak and share her own story in her words. I think I've spoken enough. So Shonali, warm welcome. Shonali is our community coordinator at WOCAL. She also was an active participant through all the projects. And I know her from last year, much before I started this project. And she was also the first person I reached out to when I said, I want to try something. Do you want to do this together? And she said, absolutely, no questions asked. And since then, we have been working together. Um, I'm just going to invite her now, Shunali. Thank you for being here. केमन आछो? आप म्यूट पे हो. सोनाली आपका वीडियो, हाँ, परफेक्ट. तो सोनाली आप अपने बारे में थोड़ा बताएंगे सबको. आप अपने आप को इंट्रोड्यूस कर सकते हैं, प्लीज.
Namaskar. Hello everyone. My name is Sonali Bera. I am from Bali Island in the Sundarbans, West Bengal, India. I am a village woman and this is the first international meeting I have ever attended. I never imagined that I would have the opportunity to share my experience with people from the other side of the world. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Today, I am happy to share my learning journey through WOCAL and my relationship with the Sundarbans.
Thank you, Shunali. Thank you so much. It's so wonderful. आपको यहाँ पे देख के बहुत अच्छा लगा. Thank you. So the rest of this presentation will actually take place in two languages. We'll speak both English and Bengali. Shonali will be sharing in Bengali, and I will try my best to share her words. And I would really encourage everybody to not focus so much on the words, but really the intent behind it, the emotions behind it. So I hope that you are excited to listen. Okay, Shonali, can you tell us what Sundarban means to you? What is your own relationship with the Sundarbans?
আমার সঙ্গে আমার সুন্দরবনের সম্পর্ক জন্ম থেকেই. আমি সুন্দরবনে জন্মেছি এবং বড় হয়েছি. ছোটবেলায় সুন্দরবনকে শুধু চারপাশের পরিবেশ হিসেবে দেখতাম, কিন্তু বড় হতে হতে বুঝেছি এই বনই আমাদের রক্ষা করে, আমাদের বিশুদ্ধ বাতাস দেয় এবং জীবিকা দেয় এবং অসংখ্য অসংখ্য প্রাণীদের আশ্রয়স্থল. প্রকৃতির প্রতি আমার ভালোবাসা শুরু আমার বাবার থেকে. ছোটবেলায় দেখতাম বাবা মৌমাছি পালন করতেন. তিনি হাতে একটু মধু লাগিয়ে মৌমাছি এসে সেখানে বসে খেত, আর আমি বলতাম বাবা মৌমাছি কামড়ে দেবে. তো বাবা আমাকে হেসে বলতেন কি কেউ ওদের আঘাত না করলে ওরা কাউকে আক্রমণ করে না. তারপর একদিন বাবা আমার হাতে একটু মধু লাগিয়ে দিলেন এবং মৌমাছিরা এসে আমার হাত থেকে মধু খেয়ে উড়ে গিয়েছিল এবং সেদিন থেকেই আমার প্রকৃতির প্রতি এক গভীর ভালোবাসা জন্ম নেয়. এবং পড়াশোনার জন্য আমি আরেক 3 বছর শহরে থাকতাম, কিন্তু সেখান থেকে গ্রামে ফিরে আসার পর বুঝলাম আমার মন আসলে সুন্দরবনেই পড়ে আছে. এখন শহরে ভালো লাগে না. গ্রামের শান্ত পরিবেশ, ভোরের পাখির ডাক, পুকুরে স্নান, ছিপ ফেলে মাছ ধরা, এসবই আমার জীবনের আনন্দ. আমার বাড়িতে প্রতিদিন ঘুঘু আসে, আমি তাদেরকে ধান ছড়িয়ে দিই খাওয়ার জন্য. আমাদের জমিতে রাসায়নিক সার ছাড়া সবজি চাষ করি. প্রকৃতির এত কাছাকাছি থাকতে বা থেকে বাঁচতে পারাই আমার কাছে সবচেয়ে বড় সুখ. এখন যখন আমি একটি ছোট্ট ম্যানগ্রোভ বীজকে বড় হতে দেখি কিংবা প্রকৃতির প্রতি ছোট ছোট প্রাণীদের ছবি তুলে তাদের সম্পর্কে জানার চেষ্টা করি, তখন আমার মনে হয় আমি শুধু সুন্দরবনকেই দেখছি না, আমি তার গল্পেরই একটি অংশ. তাই আমার কাছে সুন্দরবন সম্পর্কে শুধু একটি জায়গার সম্পর্ক নয়, একটি গভীর ভালোবাসা এবং আজীবনের বন্ধন.
Thank you, Shonali. I don't think I can do justice to how beautifully she spoke in Bengali, but I will try my best. So Shonali basically shared that she was born and raised in the Sundarbans. For her, Sundarbans is not just a forest. It's also her home, her identity. And she actually fell in love with nature because of her father. She narrated a story where when she was really young, her father used to keep honeybees, and he used to do a lot of beekeeping. And he used to put a little bit of honey on his fingers, and he would let the bees come to him and eat from his fingers. And she would always tell him, "No, Baba, this is they'll sting you." And she was really afraid. And then one day, and her father told her that. No, the bees will not sting you unless you harm them. And one day, her father put some honey on her fingers. And that day, um, when the bees came to her and ate from her fingers, that's when she completely fell in love with them. And she felt that she has a deeper bond and wanted to explore more. Her curiosity was piqued that day. And she also mentioned that she lived in the city, in Kolkata city, for a few years for her studies a few years ago. But she didn't really enjoy it. She came back to her village. She felt like this was where she belonged, and she wanted to be surrounded by the trees and um, the animals and the people that she so loves. And yeah, I think, yeah, she just shared her deep love for nature with us. Thank you, Shonali. We'll also be sharing a transcript later, so I think all of you will have a clearer understanding of what Shonali said. Thank you, Shonali. Thank you so much. Next, I wanted to ask you, আমি বুঝতে চাই কি তোমার um, এই 3 মাসের এক্সপিরিয়েন্স কেমন ছিল, কি কি প্রজেক্টস করেছো, or কিছু মোমেন্ট ছিল যে তুমি খুব প্রাউড ফিল করছো? Are there any moments from the last 3 months which you feel very proud about?
আমি ম্যানগ্রো ল্যাবে কোঅর্ডিনেটরের কাজ করেছি এবং আমি একজন পার্টিসিপেটও ছিলাম। আর ম্যানগ্রোভ ল্যাব থেকে আমি অনেক কিছু শিখতে পেরেছি। 6 প্রোটোটাইপ আমরা করেছি, তার মধ্যে আমার সব থেকে ভালো লেগেছিল ম্যানগ্রোভ নার্সারি। প্রথমে আমরা সবাই ভেবেছিলাম ম্যানগ্রোভ নার্সারি করার কথা, তখন আমরা সবাই নদীর ধারে একটি ম্যানগ্রোভ নার্সারি পরিদর্শন করতে গিয়েছিলাম এবং সেখান থেকে আমরা অনেক কিছু তথ্য আমরা জানতে পেরেছি। আর সেখান থেকেই আমাদের শুরু নার্সারি। আমরা নদীর ধারে যাই, আমাদের নদীর ধারে চাষ করার জন্য, নার্সারি করার জন্য কোনো জায়গা ছিল না। তো আমরা ঠিক করলাম মিষ্টি জলে ম্যানগ্রোভ নার্সারি তৈরি করা। তো অনেকে বলেছে মিষ্টি জলে আমরা করতে পারবো না, এটা সম্ভব নয়। তারপর জানলাম সুন্দরী কাঁকড়াদানা বাইন কম নোনা জলে হয়। প্রথমে জায়গা পরিষ্কার করলাম, বাঁশ কেটে খুঁটি পুঁতে মাটি প্যাকেটের মধ্যে দিয়ে গোবর সার দিয়ে দানা লাগানো হয়। দানা লাগানো হয়েছিল। তারপরে ধীরে ধীরে কাঁকড়ার দানা লাগানো হয়েছিল। আর এই ম্যানগ্রোভ নার্সারি প্রোটোটাইপের মধ্যে আমরা শিখেছি যে, প্রমাণ করতে পেরেছি যে মিষ্টি জলে ম্যানগ্রোভ চারা সফলভাবে তৈরি করা সম্ভব। তো ম্যানগ্রোভ ল্যাবে আমার সবচেয়ে গর্বের কাজ হলো ছোট ছোট বীজ সংগ্রহ করে সেগুলো চারা তৈরি করা এবং নিয়মিত যত্ন করে বড় করে তোলা। একটু ছোট বীজ ধীরে ধীরে সুস্থ চারায় পরিণত হতে দেখা আমার কাছে খুবই আনন্দের এবং
I think she lost some network. It's been raining a lot in the Sundarbans lately, so I think there's been some network issues. While she comes back, I can share what she shared with us. So I asked her what's her experience been like for the last 3 months and what she is most proud of. Hello, Shonali. শুনতে পারছো?
হাই দিদি।
কারেন্ট চলে গেছে। We've been having many power cuts there lately because of the storms and the rains. But it looks like she's back. Shonali, ready ho?
हाँ दीदी
आप रेडी हो? आपने लास्ट जो शेयर किया था मैं अभी शेयर करने वाली हूँ. आपने जो प्रोजेक्ट्स के बारे में बताया. ठीक है. Yeah, so when I asked her what her experience was like, what's her journey been like for the last 3 months, she said that she has been supporting WOCAL and the Mangrove Lab as a community coordinator. And she's also actively participated in all the 6 prototypes along with the other team members. And while she likes all the prototypes, one of her favorites is the mangrove nursery. Because when we were about to start that, we didn't really have a lot of experience, nor did we have a space to build this nursery. Like I mentioned, there was state elections happening, which made it very difficult for us to find a space by the riverside. And in the meanwhile, we decided that we still wanted to pursue this. So we decided that we'll do it in Anjali Jana, one of the team members' homes. So she offered her land and she said, you can, let's do it here. But again, a lot of people told us, especially when we went to the nursery to learn, the other nursery to learn, they said that you cannot really do this without salt water. You need to build this nursery on the river, on the banks of the river. But we've heard from a lot of local people and even some of the women in our team. They said that they had grown mangroves in their backyards before, and the soil has some level of salt in it due to its proximity to the sea. So they were quite confident in growing the saplings. So we got the seeds, we started our experimentation. She mentioned that we tried 2 different techniques. The first technique they tried was to take all the seeds and throw them in a pond, just tied up in a fishing net. And the other one was to directly plant it in the pots, the pots that you see here. Both worked, but the one that was in the water actually produced faster and better results. And out of, I think, in the first batch, we had about 43 seeds that had already germinated within a span of 10 days. And we focused on 3 different species. As you can see here, locally they're called Sundari, Kakra, and Vine. These are all mangrove species native to the Sundarbans. And Sundari is also an endangered species. Sundari is the mangrove behind which Sundarbans gets its name. And it also translates to Sundar means beautiful, Ban means forest. But it's sad that today these plants, these trees are very less remaining in the forest. So our efforts were focused on these 3 species, and we also identified that these 3 species do not require as much salt. They can thrive in fresh water as well. And you can see the results. So far, we have planted about 250 seeds. We haven't yet got to planting vine, the third mangrove species, because the seeds are still very small. But we'll begin that soon. And so far, most of our plants have grown, either germinated or they've grown about the size of a hand. So yeah, she's very proud to share that. She said that the moment that we had our first seed germinate was the proudest moment that she felt. And lastly, I want to ask Shonali if she can share what she wants to do in the future. What after this? The 3 months of the pilot are over. What do you want to do next? আপনি কি করতে চাও?
আহ, আমি চাই যে আমার ম্যানগ্রোভ নার্সারিটা আরো বড় হয়ে যাক, বড়ভাবে আরো একটু বেড়ে যাক, এবং আমি চাই একটু পলিনেটর গার্ডেন আমরা ছোট মতো তৈরি করেছি, সেটা যেন আর একটু বড় রকম হয়। আর আমি ছবি তুলতে এবং তার বিষয়ে জানতে শিখতে খুবই আগ্রহী, এবং আমি ইংরেজি ভাষাও শিখতে খুব আগ্রহী, এবং আহ মানে ছবি তুলতে এবং ডকুমেন্টস করতে আমি চাই।
So Shonali shares that beyond the 3 months, she wants to continue building the mangrove nursery, bring more mangroves, grow more mangroves inside the nursery, plant them together at on the coastline. That's her next vision. She'll be very, very happy to do that. Along with a deep interest in pollinators, she's been wanting to research more about pollinators. She documents a lot of wildlife. She's a self taught photographer and a video editor. She documents a lot of wildlife, all the way from tiny insects to birds and animals. And I wanted to share some of that here with you. I'll just quickly play this video of a couple of sunbirds that she saw nesting in her house.
একদিন আমাদের রান্নাঘরের সামনে দেখি একটি ছেলে সান্নাট ও একটি মেয়ে সান্নাট ঘুরে বেড়াচ্ছে। তখন আমি বুঝতে পারিনি তারা কি খুঁজছে। কয়েকদিন পর লক্ষ্য করলাম ওই জায়গায় একটু একটু করে একটি বাসা তৈরি হয়েছে। ধীরে ধীরে বাসাটি সম্পূর্ণ হয়ে গেল। একদিন ভোরবেলা কৌতূহল নিয়ে দেখতে গেলাম, তখন দেখি মেয়ে সান্নাটটি বাসার মুখ থেকে উঁকি দিচ্ছে। এই দৃশ্য দেখে আমি খুব আনন্দিত হলাম। এরপর থেকে আমি প্রতিদিন ওদের দেখতে শুরু করি। বাসাটি শুকনো ঘাস, পাতা ও নানা রকম উপকরণ দিয়ে তৈরি ছিল। ভিতরে ছিল তুলোর মতো নরম আস্তরণ, যাতে ডিম ও বাচ্চারা নিরাপদে থাকতে পারে। বাসাটি সবার চোখের সামনে ছিল বলে আমি একটি কাগজ দিয়ে আড়াল করে দিয়েছিলাম, যাতে মানুষ সহজে দেখতে না পায় এবং বৃষ্টির জলও না লাগে। কিছুদিন পর আমি বাসার ভিতরে 3টি ছোট ডিম দেখতে পেলাম। এটি ছিল আমার জীবনের এক বিশেষ অভিজ্ঞতা। এই প্রথম আমি নিজের চোখে একটি পাখির বাসা তৈরি করা, ডিম পাড়া এবং ভবিষ্যতে হয়তো বাচ্চা ফুটে বের হওয়ার পুরো ঘটনাটি দেখার সুযোগ পাবো। আমি অধীর আগ্রহে সেই দিনের অপেক্ষা করে আছি।
Yes, so that was one of the wildlife moments that she has documented. And she does a lot of this documentation on her YouTube channel, her Instagram that she recently started, and she also has been writing blogs for many years to share her experiences. So yes, was there anything, Shonali, आपको कुछ और बोलना है? आप लोगों से कुछ और बोलना चाहते हो यहाँ पे? Anything else you want to share with everybody?
আমি খুব খুশি আমি এই মিটিং এ আসতে পারি, আমার এই প্রথমবার। আমি চাই ওনারা সবাই সুন্দরবনে আসুক, এখানে দেখুক, আসলে ওনাদের সঙ্গে আমাদের দেখা হবে। আমি এটুকুই বলবো।
Thank you, Shonali. She invites all of you to the Sundarbans, and she's very, very happy to be here. This was her first ever international meeting, and she's just very happy that you all are listening to her, and she gets to speak in her mother tongue. Just a couple more slides remaining. I'll close it in a minute. So circling back to the question that we started with, who is a conservationist? In our dictionary, we define it as somebody who is in deep relationship with their environment and someone who has the agency to act on it. The women that you see here in this photo, all of them are already stewards of their environment. They've already been protecting the ecosystem in ways that have not always been visible. And that's exactly where our work is. We are not trying to train them or teach them, we are trying to learn. and we're trying to co-create this together. Just a few years ago, I myself could not imagine becoming a conservationist. I could not imagine being here. Um, it was it was a dream that I never thought would ever come true. But I'm here today, and I'm more than happy to be sharing this platform with Shanali and Pushpa and Sushmita, Pratima, Anjali, and um, Momita. So I invite all of you to dream with us. I know this room has a lot to offer, and our journey is not over. Whether it's a question or an idea or somebody you think that you can connect us with in your network, um, we'd appreciate that a lot. We're also learning as we go in this journey. We don't have all the answers, but we invite you to come and explore these questions with us. Um, with that said, thank you so much. Feel free to reach out to me on my email. We'll be sharing this afterwards as well. And lastly, I wanted to say a very heartfelt thank you to Women for Conservation. Without them, this was not possible. We would have never been able to get started at this time. It would have taken a few years, I don't know. So they've not just been our partners, our donors, but they've also believed in our mission, believed in the women right at the beginning. So a deep, deep gratitude to the entire team of Women for Conservation, Sarah, Libby, and Isabella. I'll stop presenting here.
Thank you, Simran. That was wonderful. If anyone has any questions, I know that we're running out of time, but you're welcome to put your email in the chat. We also have Simran's email, which I will put in the chat as well, which you can reach out to her and me also. Thank you, everyone, for coming today. Maybe we have room for one question if anyone has anything that they want to ask before we have to leave the call. Otherwise, if Sarah wants to add anything about Women for Conservation and our mission.
Hi everyone, thank you so much. We are so proud of seeing these wonderful leaders, women from where conservation happens, taking the leadership, and this is what we are. I think is explained very easily. What we want is to find these great potential and nature lovers that can take conservation on their own hands as a way of living and give it the opportunity to share about their work, their lives, and that we are humans who care about our planet. So this is just makes our purpose in life fulfill. And we would like to see more and more women everywhere taking this leadership from wherever they can do to help nature. So I just a big hug and thank you to everyone who supports our initiative, supports the women, and is all about them. Thank you. Congratulations again. So proud.
Thanks everyone so much for joining, and just a reminder, the presentation will be posted to YouTube, Women for Conservation's YouTube, so you can find it there if you missed anything. And I also sent the slides in the chat, just so you can go back over it. But I hope everyone has a wonderful day, and thanks again for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It was a true pleasure. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Bye, everyone.
Goodbye.